Hi everybody, Dr. T here. Today we are going to talk about practical information on the available federal domestic violence laws and penalties and the rights of federal victims, because violence and abuse at the hands of a loved one is frightening, degrading, and confusing. In 1994, Congress passed the Violence Against Women's Act, VAWA. Even though this act states women, it is gender neutral and applies to all genders. This act and the 1996 additions to the act recognize that domestic violence is a national crime and that federal laws can help an overburdened state and local criminal justice system. In 1994 and 1996, Congress also passed changes to the Gun Control Act, making it a federal crime in certain situations for domestic violence abusers to possess guns. The majority of domestic violence cases will continue to be handled by your state and local authorities. In some cases, however, the federal laws and the benefits gained from applying these laws may be the most appropriate course of action. Who should you call to report a possible federal crime? Always contact your local authorities in cases of emergency. Your local district attorney's office will refer appropriate cases for federal prosecution to the United States Attorney's Office. If you are unsure of the violation, please contact your local authorities. What are the federal crimes? All the federal domestic violence crimes are felonies. It is a federal crime under the VAWA to cross state lines or enter or leave tribal land and physically injure an intimate partner. To cross state lines to stalk or harass, or to stalk or harass within the maritime or territorial lands of the United States. This includes military bases and tribal land. And to cross state lines to enter or leave tribal land and violate a qualifying protection order. It is a federal crime under the Gun Control Act to possess a firearm and or ammunition while subject to a qualifying protection order, and to possess a firearm and or ammunition after conviction of a qualifying misdemeanor crime of domestic violence. In a VAWA case, the court must order restitution to pay the victim the full amount of loss. These losses include costs for medical or psychological care, physical therapy, transportation, temporary housing, child care expenses, loss of income, attorney's fees, costs incurred in obtaining a civil protection order, and any other losses suffered by the victim as a result of the offense. In a Gun Control Act case, the court may order restitution. Please keep a record of all expenses caused by the domestic violence crime. What is a qualifying domestic violence misdemeanor? Possession of a firearm and or ammunition after conviction of a qualifying domestic violence misdemeanor is a federal crime under Section 922G9. Generally, the misdemeanor will qualify if the conviction was for a crime committed by an intimate partner, parent, or guardian of the victim that required the use of attempted use of physical force or the threatened use of a deadly weapon. The United States Attorney's Office will examine your case and determine whether the prior domestic violence misdemeanor conviction qualifies according to the law. Who is an intimate partner? Generally, the federal law recognizes an intimate partner as a spouse, a former spouse, a person who shares a child in common with the victim, or a person who cohabitates or has cohabitated with the victim. Can your concerns be heard in federal court? A victim in a VAWA case shall have the right to speak to the judge at a bail hearing to inform the judge of any danger posed by the release of the defendant. Any victim of a crime of violence shall also have the right to address the court in person at the time of sentencing. The victim's rights include the federal domestic violence victim has the following rights under 42 U.S.C. Section 10606B. The right to be treated with fairness and with respect for the victim's dignity and privacy. The right to be reasonably protected from the accused offender. the right to be notified of court proceedings, the right to be present at all public court proceedings related to the offense unless the court determines that testimony by the victim would be materially affected if the victim heard other testimony at the trial, the right to confer with the attorney for the government in the case, the right to restitution, the right to inform information about the conviction, sentencing, imprisonment, and release of the offender. Help is available. If you are a victim of a domestic violence crime, it is normal to feel scared, helpless, and vulnerable. Remember, you are not alone, and it is not your fault.
If you or someone you know is in an abusive situation, call the National Helpline at 1-800-799-SAFE or text START to 88788. Everyone deserves a healthy relationship.